Welcome, welcome, welcome. Well, folks, today is game 162, folks. 162. It's do or die time. It's put up or shut up. The New York Mets, we all know, need to win. We need the Cincinnati Reds to lose to the Brewers. Luckily, the Reds and the Mets are virtually playing at the same time, so we're going to be able to scoreboard watch. Currently, the New York Mets just had a very pathetic top of the first inning, going 1-2-3. Lindor striking out. Soto hit a weak flare, and Alonso struck out as well. So the New York Mets have not gotten off to a pretty good start. But you know what? There is time. The only thing that is scary right now is I am looking at the TV screen and I am seeing Sean Manaea throwing. So I'm just hoping, praying that Sean could somehow do a miracle, eat up some good innings, 3-4 very sharp innings. It is said that everybody is available except for McClain, Sprout, and Clay Holmes. Every other pitcher is on deck. I mean, obviously, you would have liked the Nolan McClain available, but hey, it is what it is. So, if Manaea gets into early trouble, which obviously is very possible, you're going to see a quick hook. Now, here's the deal, folks. The Marlins, they have circled this on their calendar for over a week. I am watching right now the Marlins broadcast, and all they're talking about is how they wanted to pummel the New York Mets all week, and that they want to be that team that eliminates the Mets. So, obviously, the Mets can't let that happen. We have to take care of business, control what we can control. We can win this game, and then we just got to hope that the Brewers take care of business. I know it's not ideal. The Brewers are essentially not playing for anything, but at the end of the day, if you're going into the playoffs, it's not good going into the playoffs on a 3-game losing streak. The Brewers have lost 4 out of their last 10, so I'm pretty sure that they would like to taste a bit of winning before entering the so-called playoffs. So we will see. We will see. Again, we're going to be scoreboard watching the Reds and the Brewers. Right now, I don't think there's any score right there. It's the top of the first inning in that game, as Sean Manaea strikes out the first batter. So the Mets have 1 out, and Manaea gets off to a pretty decent start. So we're going to see if Manaea can control the strike zone, if Manaea doesn't give up any free passes. Let's see. When he's laying balls in the middle of the strike zone, obviously that's not good. But we're going to see. We're going to see how this comes. And again, if anything happens, it is said a quick hook is coming. Again, it is do or die. So, folks, let's lock in, strap in, hit that like button, subscribe. I thank you so much for joining us. We live streamed last night at 1:45 in the morning. Thank you all for being there, and thank you all for being here as well. You are the best. Hello, CeeLo. And I'm ready here. I got my Arizona, although I'm getting more Arizona. That's on the way. I got my popcorn. And as Manaea retires his second out, can of corn to Brandon Nimmo. So we got 2 outs in the bottom of the first inning. And thankfully we have our A defense in the field. You got Tyrone Taylor out there. Ronnie Mauricio, he's playing for Brett Beatty. You got Lindor, Jeff McNeil, Pete Alonso. Okay, so the infield that's going to be your best infield at this time. But again, the Marlins are hungry. The Marlins want to do what they did to the New York Mets in the past, what they did at Shea Stadium. This is all I'm hearing on the pregame show for the Marlins, that they are so fired up to defeat the New York Mets. Obviously, if you're the New York Mets, you're not going to let it happen. This guy, Jacob Marcy, is a very good young hitter. I believe he's got like 200 at bats, but he's a very good, promising young hitter. You can't really let him get on base. What's up, G Money? Edward Cabrera. Yeah, Edward Cabrera. This is not going to be an easy matchup. I mean, this guy's got pretty nasty stuff, as we saw to Lindor and to Pete. But you know what? It doesn't matter who's pitching. If the Mets have the right approach, if the Mets obviously aren't chasing, they can, anybody can be beat, anybody can be defeated. I'm not scared of Edward Cabrera, but good point, G Money. He does have pretty nice stuff, and he's going to be pretty tough. But again, the Mets, if they want to be a playoff team, they're going to see tough pitchers. So, Edward Cabrera is just one of many tough pitchers that you have to find ways to beat. And if you are a so-called dominant offense, and that's what the New York Mets have been really, that's their best attribute right now. Their offense, you have the superstars, Lindor, Soto, Nimmo. Well, not Nimmo as a superstar. Alonso, you're going to rely on that offense to get your team going. So we're going to be here for the long haul. We're going to be here the whole game. Hopefully we're going to have to, possibly. I don't want to think about anything negative. So hopefully we're going to have something to celebrate. The thing is, at the end of the day, when I looked at the series, the Brewers versus the Reds, I couldn't imagine the Brewers getting swept. I really couldn't. I'm like, they got to at least take one game. If the Reds sweep the Brewers, I mean, you got to also give credit. I mean, I don't really like when Mendoza spends half of his press conference praising the opponent, but at the end of the day, if I'm looking at how the Reds really came from behind, the Mets had a substantial lead. I mean, the Mets are doing something historically bad right now, so we're hoping that this obviously doesn't come to fruition. But give those Reds credit. The Reds, when they needed to win, they continued to win. And I said with 14 games left, I did a video. We were a game and a half ahead with about 14 games left. I said the Mets are going to have to go 9-5 in that last 14-game stretch to make the playoffs. If the Mets win today and if the Reds win, they will have gone 8-6. 8-6. So, I don't want to toot my own horn, but they would have had to go that 9-5 in that last 14-game stretch to have made the playoffs. And, that's what you do when you put yourself in a hole, when you got a bunch of teams. All right, we see Nimmo. He drives one to the left center field gap, but it is caught. But you know what? That's a good hit. That gives confidence to the rest of the lineup. I always thought that if a batter puts a good piece on, covers a ball like that, that actually does help the other batters. But other than that, it's just an out. Here's me trying to look at anything positive. And you'll see about the Marlins. The thing about the Marlins is they have speed. They're fast. They're young. This is what the Mets have to start doing. They got to start building that offense. That defense. That defense has killed us. Fundamentally, it has killed us. We need more speed. We need more fundamental play. Nimmo in left field. I'm not sure if we're going to see that next year. I love Nimmo as a player, but in terms of his coverage and his range and his arm, he's at the bottom of the barrel in a lot of those categories. Man, Edward Cabrera is firing nasty 99 miles per hour fastball in on the hands. I mean, this kid's got great stuff. There we go. There we go. So Vientos walks. And that's another thing. If you could run up the kid's pitch count, that's also not a bad thing as well. And I was just about to say McNeil, and I'm not sure if my TV coverage is the same as yours. I might be behind you, but Jeff McNeil has always been a notorious first pitch swinger. So in terms of working the pitcher, that is not his strong suit. And he swings on the second pitch. Wow. 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 Do we just see Jeff McNeil swings at the first two pitches and just lets strike three go? And then you see as he walks back to the dugout, like you have honestly, folks, when I talk about fundamental baseball, about not playing the game the right way, he literally just took strike three in a do or die game. At least put the bat on the ball. You're a batting champ. Vientos, yes, he got the stolen base, but still, the guy's got back control. He can go oppo. That's a bit bizarre. And then you see him going back to the dugout, and Mendoza said something to him. Mendoza wasn't happy. Yeah, G Money, good point. Brett Beatty, that is a big loss. He was heating up. He was heating up in a big way, and we were finally starting to see, what Brett Beatty could finally flourish into. But you know what? This is when guys have to step up. Now Ronnie Mauricio has his opportunity. Hopefully he's been working, even though he hasn't had that much playing time. Hopefully he's been working on the side. And, when that opportunity comes, this is his chance. So, we'll see. We'll see. All right. So that was a pretty uneventful inning. The Mets score nothing. And, I again, I want to run the guy's pitch count up. I want to make the guy work. We need tough at bats. I'm not seeing it right now. I'm not seeing it. Mark Vientos, okay, he walked, but through two innings, the Mets have virtually done really not much. And you're getting the guy's confidence up. McNeil striking out pretty easily. Lindor striking out. Pete Alonso striking out. So I guess we'll see the next inning. Again, I want to put pressure on the pitcher. I haven't seen the Mets offense put much pressure at all. We're going to see Manaea come out for the bottom of the second. Hopefully he can have a clean inning. Right now, it's going to be very nerve-wracking as this game goes on because, you have to win the inning. I mean, honestly, just the New York Mets can do this to us. Right on. Yep. Joseph, all hands on deck. All hands on deck. Right now, Sean Manaea has the baton. Right now, he hasn't done anything wrong, but, we will see. Folks, I'm a bit nervous. I'm a bit nervous. You want to know why? Because, this is a team that I had so much confidence that we were going to make the playoffs. And, this is the day when we're actually literally staring, not making the playoffs in the eye. And, I'm dealing with it right in front of you. All right, so far in the first inning, Manaea only threw 14 pitches, so not bad. At least he didn't labor too much. He's sailing the ball. I mean, those first two balls against Lopez were not even close, not even competitive. And that's what happens a lot. Now he throws a ball almost down the middle to get the count 2-1. Great pitch. Great pitch by Manaea. That's a great pitch. And Lindor makes a great defensive play. That is a great pitch. James Otto Lopez. And nice pick by Alonso as well. See, this is, I'm going to say no matter who we play, you got to play fundamental. Lindor makes a nice fundamental play, and Pete Alonso made a nice fundamental play. And Manaea thus far is making decent pitches, decent pitches. But I mean, some of these pitchers, that's the only thing I don't like. Manaea, once in a while, I mean, you'll see him make these pitches that are 2 feet inside, 2 feet outside. I mean, it's not even close. Another nice pitch. Yeah, I saw somebody comment that we're live streaming early. Yeah, I mean, live streaming now. I mean, this is the end of the year. Uh and we were live streaming 2 o'clock in the morning last night too. So again, thank you for all of you who were out last night at 2 a.m. That was awesome. Um all right, so Manaea puts on a guy, walks Norby. All right, and there's your first knock for the Reds. Ellie De La Cruz, solo home run. The Reds go up 1-0. A lot of time left. A lot of time left. Obviously, not the start that we would like, but a lot of time left. I'll tell you, I'm in Florida. There are a lot of Mets fans going to the games the last couple of days. I had tickets to go yesterday. I didn't go, but my coworker, who's a big Mets fan, he went, and there were a whole crap load of people from Orlando going down to Miami. So you got a lot of Mets fans there. A lot of Mets fans obviously are going to be very disappointed, but everybody's pulling. I mean, you look at that crowd, it's half Mets fans. So there's support down there, which is good. Carlos Mendoza, he was asked about the team's state, about how are they feeling. And, he openly admitted, he said the team, especially 2 nights ago, was very down, very down. But, my comment on that is the team only has themselves to blame. So, again, now we got to rely on the Reds. But if they would have won Friday night's game, and that's the day they were down after that loss. That was in the destiny was in their hands, and they handed it over to the Reds. And that's why all of us right now are hoping and praying that the Brewers can kind of take care of business. But the Mets, they had the opportunity. They had the opportunity, and they just said, "Here, Reds, you want it? Take it. If you don't want it, we'll take it at the end. But if anything, you take it." See, this is what I mean about Manaea. Manaea is not even close with some of these balls. Not even close, as we see Brazoban right now warming up in the bullpen. You got Mendoza speaking to the coaches right now in the dugout, trying to figure out, all right, when are we going to make the decision? And again, oh my God. Oh my God. Okay. Another unfundamental play. You got the Marlin runner. I think that's Norby stealing a base, and Alvarez throws the ball into the outfield. Luckily, it didn't go that far. Tyrone Taylor does have a gun, but it's unfundamental baseball right now. The Manaea right now doesn't look like he's controlling the strike zone at all. There we go. All right, so he gets him out on the sweeper. We got 2 outs. Let's just get out of this inning. Hopefully clean. Hopefully we don't allow a run. That's all I'm asking. Again, thank you all for being here. And for all of you who are watching this on replay, thank you as well. If you could hit the like button, I appreciate it. I know today, we're going to see how it turns out. Again, right now, everybody's not feeling that great, but, the table could turn very easily. Table could turn. I have confidence in the Brewers. I've been the biggest Brewers fan in the last 2 days. That's a very nice pitch by Mania. See, Mania, I could see the sweeper right now is his number one weapon that he's going to, especially jamming hitters, righty hitters. It looks like that's his best pitch. His fastball, unfortunately, he does not have a feel for. It looks like he really can't control that. And if you're a New York, if you ask Carlos Mendoza, he'll say that he's not elevating the fastball. Although the last pitch he did elevate, it was just high and outside. And it's so funny when you ask Carlos Mendoza, why did Jonah Tong do well? Why didn't Mania do well? It's the same answer all the time. Well, he didn't elevate the fastball. I mean, that's always the answer. No matter what happens, that's the reason why he didn't do well. In fact, Mania, in this last batter, he's elevating the fastball. So maybe signs are pointing to a good direction. He's elevating the fastball, but they are legit balls. Damn, and we got another walk by Mania. All right. Oh, wow. Look at this, folks. Look at this. And, Mendoza was seeing what we were seeing. The guy was not control. He had no control. He couldn't control the fastball. And what he had to do is just rely on that sweeper. And eventually, batters, they catch on. If you only got one pitch that you go to, and we see Brazoban already going to Brazoban. Very, very aggressive move by Mendoza. Again, you're trying to shut the door on every inning. Every inning you're shutting the door, especially when you got a pitcher you're going up against in Edward Cabrera. You don't want the Marlins to get out to any sort of lead. Explosive. I see you seeing the Reds. Oh Lord. I mean, I see they're up 1-0. Did they score again? Ezekiel, I see that. I see a comment. We need Grimace. We need something that we had last year. I mean, if you ask Jose Iglesias, you ask him, he would say, hey, you guys need me. You guys need JD Martinez. You guys need Jose Quintana. And then everybody goes to the thing that the New York Mets don't have the right leaders. But right now, I'll tell you, it's not about leadership. It's about execution. There's every single person on that field knows what they need to do. They need to execute. So right now, this last game, it is about execution. Throughout the course of a 162-game season, there's going to be ups and downs. And, you got the dog days of August. Yeah, you're going to need leaders to get everybody going. But right now, if you are not going, last game of the season, playoffs on the line, you don't need a captain. You don't need a leader to nudge you and motivate you. If you are not motivated at this moment, then you are in the wrong position. We have the wrong players in the team. Every damn Met right now should be motivated. So, let's see. I mean, right now, we got the bottom of the second inning, and we got to get out of this. So we got 2 outs, Brazoban in the game. You got 2 runners on base. Brazoban's first pitch is a strike. Nice pitcher on the inside corner. Another nice pitch, gets a nice grounder. Very good, very good. Very respectable call by Mendoza, bringing the fresh arm. And I love it. I love it because you could see it, folks, throwing that slurve right over the middle of the plate. That's what Manaea was going to have to do because he couldn't locate the fastball. Could have led to a 3-run lead by the Marlins. Great decision by Mendoza. And the Mets find a way to get out of that jam. And now we're going to the top of the third inning. You got to start putting pressure on Edward Cabrera. Hopefully we can get any run. You scratch a couple of runs every couple innings. That's going to be the way we're going to probably have to score. And then as we go over to the Reds, it looks like the Reds still have that 1-0 lead. And again, of course, it's the guy, Elly De La Cruz, I have on the thumbnail. He's the guy who hits the homer, and he puts the Reds on top. Come on, Brewers. Come on. You got 96 wins. And the things, I hear a lot of theories floated online. The Brewers, this is how the Brewers are paying back the Mets. I can't buy into that. I mean, no team wants to go into the playoffs on a 3-game losing streak. And the Brewers also have lost 4 out of their last 10. So they're not playing a good stretch. I mean, no team wants to go into the playoffs playing bad baseball. And the Brewers are going to have a pretty long rest because, they have the bye. So, if I'm the Brewers, I want this win in the worst way. Yeah, Tony, I hear that. I hear the Brewers have nothing to play for, but I've seen it. We've seen in the last couple of years that these wild card teams keep beating the teams that are highly seeded, the teams with the buys, because you're playing competitive baseball and you're having to win day after day. Now, the Brewers, apparently, as we're all assuming, are supposedly taking their foot off the pedal. All right, maybe they are, but at the end of the day, I mean, I'm a believer that that's definitely not going to help them. All right, so we got Ronnie Mauricio up. Hopefully, he can make some noise, and he's up from the left side. So Ronnie Mauricio from the left side is a different monster. Although that swing was pathetically ugly. Explosive. You're right. I wish the Mets could go up big. Put pressure on the Reds in this game. Yeah, I mean, that would be nice. That would be nice because you got to think they are scoreboard watching as well. I mean, there's pressure on them. I mean, they control their own destiny, which is good. But, hey, if they see the Mets get off to a big lead, it's not like they have it in their back pocket. The Reds are in a good position because they can get in by winning and they can get in by the Mets losing. And this is what the Mets have done to themselves. I'll take that. Mets up 5-0. Feel the pressure right now. I love that. And I agree. That probably would put some pressure on them. Maybe. They stumped his growth this season, letting him rot on the bench. The Mets, I got to say, the Mets plan with the young kids this year, I got to say, they confused the hell out of me with Acuna, with Mauricio, with Beatty, with Vientos. I mean, everybody got their chance to rot in hell. Everybody got their chance to rot on the bench. Like I said, I've been just kind of like surprised. None of these guys got traded. And you could see Ronnie Mauricio looks very lost. Looks very lost. He hasn't had that much competitive ball to play in. He really hasn't. And now you're going up against a guy like Edward Cabrera, who has 100-mile-per-hour nasty stuff, nasty, breaking ball there. I mean, completely nasty, but ugly swing. Ugly swing. I mean, like he took 2 of the ugliest swings. Okay, I noticed something. So you put Tyrone Taylor got a single. So you're probably about 30 seconds ahead of my broadcast. Like I said, I'm watching this in Florida, and I'm watching the Marlins broadcast. All right, so you get to see the good stuff and the bad stuff about 30 seconds ahead of me. But again, okay, nice start. Tyrone Taylor, kind of like a seeing eye single. I'll take it. Let's get something going. Come on, Lindor. All right, let's see if this guy, Lindor, can come up, Captain Clutch. And again, I've said Lindor's numbers, despite having the broken toe, despite having that 0 for 31 streak, Lindor's offensive numbers are pretty comparable to his numbers last year, in which he was placed second in the MVP. All right. We got Tyrone Taylor stealing second base, going into scoring position. G Money, great point. Great point. Ronnie Mauricio did lose a year. I believe he tore the ACL. And I've been mentioning this time and time again. A lot of people say that if you tore your ACL, it takes at least 1 year for you to get back to where you were before you got hurt. So again, if that's the case, then we should see the real Ronnie Mauricio next year. All right, so we got Lindor working the count. All right, now you're ahead of me, G Money. So, all right, good stuff. Thank you for the update. So we got Lindor walking first and second. Great stuff. Great stuff. And again, making Edward Cabrera struggle, making him work. Now, Juan Soto. We got Juan Soto. We paid him $800 million, folks. This is for this moment right here. All right, let's see. I love everybody's commentary. And actually, I want to see what's going on with Soto, and then we're going to address this. But this is a very big at bat, very huge at bat. Hello, Amber. Thank you for tuning in. You know what? Right now, as Mets fans, we are hoping, we could take care of business, and then we're hoping against hope that the Brewers could beat the Reds. But, the Mets right now are in a situation where they got to rely on another team. So, not in the best situation. See, it does look like the Mets right now, Mets hitters are making a constant effort to make him work. Everybody looks like they're taking pitches. They are not, it's besides Jeff McNeil, everybody looks like they're trying to work the count. That is one of the worst things you could do. Juan Soto hits into a double play. And again, you're relying on your $800 million man to step up in one of the biggest spots. And Juan Soto, Pete Alonso, Lindor doing good the last couple of games. Juan Soto, yes, he's had good stretches, but, Juan Soto, I'm relying on him, a day like this, did not come through. Very disappointing. Very disappointing. Tony, right? I got cussed out by Reds fans for saying it takes a year to come back from ACL injuries for Matt McLain. Well, the thing is, everybody's different. Everybody's body responds differently. I tore my ACL, so I've spoke to a bunch of doctors. In fact, the doctor I had was the New York Knicks doctor. So, he worked on a lot of athletes. So I didn't go to a guy who did no knees. But everybody's different, and not that you can't play. Guys can come back within 4 to 6 months, but for you to do exactly everything that you did before, all the pivoting, the cutting, the way your knee moved, the way the muscles have to be built up over time, it takes time. So that's why they say it takes a year. I mean, after 3 weeks of not being on your knee, your quad really atrophies. It's so amazing how it gets so much smaller, and that's why it takes a lot of time for these guys to come back and become as dominant or dynamic. Dynamic's probably the word. That's why some people say it takes up to a year after the surgery. Damn, I'm not paying that closely to a chance to the not paying that close attention to the Brewers, but they blew a chance. Damn. But that was a big play. The Juan Soto double play was huge. Oh shoot, Buzz, thank you so much. You want to know the funny thing? I appreciate the donation. For some Arizona iced tea and some entertainment, this is more relaxing than watching the game. The funny thing is, I have not too much Arizona iced tea left. So my wife right now actually went out to get me some Arizona iced tea. So thank you so much. Really appreciate it. All right, so we got Brazabon. Brazabon, literally the last thing we need is walks. That is the last thing we need. So we're going batter by batter. And as we see right now, Brooks Raley is already up. And the Mets and Brazabon has an 0-2 count. So again, leaving nothing to chance. Leaving nothing to chance. Everything is on the line right now. I mean, the fact of the matter is, we should have been playing like this for the last 3 games. We had control of our own destiny on Friday. It kind of should have been all hands on deck, but all right, you wait till the last game. We got to rely on another team to take care of business, and we'll see. I mean, the Brewers are a really good team, and again, I can't imagine that they would want to go into the playoffs on a 3-game losing streak. So we'll see. Oh, wow. Deep fly ball. Marlins Park is big. And how much appreciation do we have for Tyrone Taylor? I always had appreciation for him. If you looked at Tyrone Taylor's advanced stats, like they always jump off the page. I mean, this guy's arm is in the 99th percentile. His range is in the 95th, always in the upper 90s. Like Tyrone Taylor is such a good center fielder. Bad pitch by Brazapon. All right, so the Reds are up 2-0 right now. Up 2-0. I think Friedel hit a home run. It is the top of the 3rd inning. All right, well, right now we see a runner on base, 2 outs, and Mendoza again being very aggressive, going to the pen. I believe he's bringing in Brooks Raley, bringing in the lefty. So being very, 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 very aggressive when it comes to making changes, not allowing any of our pitchers, to make that big bad pitch. All right, so it is nerve wracking. Yeah, no, I mean okay. So we got a commercial. So let me go back to a comment that I put on hold. Okay, so lovely breaking waves. You wrote, "This is desperate. They should not be in this awful situation. The fish rots from the head down. The rookie manager is to blame for this. Fire Mendoza. Let him go back to the Yankees." Well, give Mendoza his due. He's not a rookie manager anymore. He's in his sophomore season, but I get what you're saying. He is a younger, more experienced manager. Last year we had a lot of things break in our favor. This year, we needed a guy with a bit more leadership abilities, a bit more experience. We needed that to lean on. You got superstars in that locker room. We had some tension. We needed an adult in the locker room, a leader to make everybody come together. And that's been missing. That has certainly been missing. You heard comments from Jose Iglesias kind of allude to the lack of leadership. And when you hear lack of leadership, that reflects badly on the manager. It really does. Now, the goal of this season was supposed to be World Series. Make no mistake about that. You spend over $300 million. You're in the top three in money spent. You handed out that mega contract, the biggest contract in baseball history, to Juan Soto. Make no mistake, this was supposed to be all in for the World Series. Not to mention, at the trade deadline, you gave up assets to acquire relief pitchers that was supposed to help your chances. So again, if the Mets knew that this season was not going in the direction, they could have either held on to those assets or, did what they did in 23, retool. But the Mets kind of doubled down. And, that's why it hurts even more for that to not even work out. All right, so the Mets get out of that inning. Once again, Carlos Mendoza goes to that aggressive, decision to take the pitcher out, and the Mets survive another inning. Surviving, that's what they got to do. Get surviving. Hopefully, they're going to score. We need to score. We got Alonso coming up. Hopefully, we could start something. I read what you wrote, Explosive. You wrote, Mets need more chemistry guys. And I think that is important. You need guys you need glue guys to bring people together, not apart. But also, when you give out these mega bucks, when you give out the $800 million contract, the $341 million contract, the 8-year, $160 million contract to Nimmo, $30 million to Alonso. There's a lot of money around. Diaz is the highest paid closer. I mean, you have like 3 or 4 of the highest paid players at their respective position. So there's a lot of money spread around that locker room. And that kind of leads to, some players being a bit selfish, because the players that don't have that money, all right, now they have to get mine. And then the players that do have that money, they're worried about the stats. They're worried about, them earning that money. It creates a lot of all these different, variations of problems. And that's why you need a good leader. That's why you definitely need a good leader. But again, when you give out that money to those players, it's good to know who you're giving that money to. Like the reason why I think the Dodgers have been successful is they've given a lot of money out. But I think the money they've given out is to a lot of players who are selfless. Ohtani, one of them, the guy, really deferred most of his contract. Mookie Betts, Freddie Freeman. I think those guys, they figured out a way. They won a World Series last year. All right, so now we are in the top of the 4th inning. Mets should have won two more games against the Reds. That's the big thing. There's going to be so many games analyzed throughout the course of this season. There's so many games that the Mets should have won, should have pulled out, made silly mistakes, Mendoza making mistakes. But again, the Mets put themselves in this situation. And it's still 4:00 in the afternoon. Alonso got a good piece on, made good contact, but hit it right to the second baseman. I mean, Edwards made a nice play. That is a nice backhanded play, and the Marlins did have Pete played perfectly. There we go. Explosive, thank you for the update. Brewers no out double. Okay, all right, there we go. Let's hopefully Brewers get something going. Mets right now have an opportunity in the fourth inning. Their biggest opportunity thus far was last inning when you had Juan Soto ground out with, I believe, multiple men on base, hitting into a double play. That was pretty big. So I'm gonna write this down so I remember. Top of the third inning. Okay, there we go. Brandon Nimmo ropes a ball opposite field, left field, getting things started. That's great contact by Brandon Nimmo. And that's the Brandon Nimmo that I like to see. It's nice when Brandon hits homers, but when he's going to left center field, driving the ball, hitting it opposite field, taking walks, that is the Brandon Nimmo that I like. Because if you notice, Brandon Nimmo's on-base percentage has went down from like 370, 380 to now 320. There we go. Explosive with the great update. Awesome. Brewers right now cut into the Reds lead 2-1. Brewers fighting back. All right. Awesome stuff. Brandon Nimmo stolen base. All right. You're ahead of me. Now I get to watch it happen. There we go. Nimmo takes second. And I'm telling you, like, we start getting runs on the board, you are absolutely right. It's naturally going to put pressure on the Reds, naturally. So hopefully, we can put some type of spot on the board. Come on, Swaggy V. Remember, folks, Mark Vientos, he's actually been pretty clutch in a lot of these big moments. Last year in the playoffs, Mark was one of the best hitters with pressure. Oh, Ryan Stanek up in the bullpen. But Stanek's been doing a lot better as of late. I give him credit. Like, my thing is, it seems like he's throwing more of a heavy ball, but we'll see. All right. Another missed opportunity. So you see Mark Vientos, he swings, he strikes out, obviously. Pretty nasty pitch, ball in the outside corner. Very nice pitch. All right. But the thing is, in that type of opportunity, it just, it stinks. You can't even advance the runner. I know it's with 2 outs. Let's see, Jeff, if he swings with the first pitch. All right, Jeff doesn't swing at the first pitch, changing the approach. And Edward Cabrera, last time he threw him a fastball on the first pitch. This time he starts him off with a breaking ball. So you see Cabrera changing his approach a bit. Damn. Another missed opportunity, folks. Another missed opportunity. Vientos. Again, you got a man in scoring position. Fourth inning, man in scoring position. You have Vientos striking out, and you have McNeil hitting a very weak grounder to the first baseman. So that's already 3 outs. We're 0 for 3. If I'm doing my calculations right, we are 0 for 3 with runners in scoring position. These are the things that come back to bite you. I hope that Ryan Stanek doesn't give up any runs and walks. Every single Mets fan's hoping, crossing their fingers, hoping so too. But you know what, folks? We had some good news. We had some good news that inning. We had the Brewers. Let me see. Did the Brewers do anything else? All right, we had the Brewers cut into the lead. I believe the Brewers are still up. So the Brewers right now, they're cutting into the lead, taking care of business. We'll see what happens. And the Brewers, everybody's saying that they're sitting all their top players out. I said that I don't think it would be wise for them to give up. They have Jackson Chourio, he's in there. I would say that's one of their top players. So, they're trying to win this game, folks. They are trying to win this game. You don't want to they clinched throughout the playoffs, but you don't want to go into the playoffs on a 3-game losing streak. Nobody does. Yeah, what's up, Giovanni? Yeah, honestly, I'm really nervous myself. But you know what? It is what it is. We're here together. We'll figure it out. Whatever happens, it happens. If we somehow have a miracle, we get to celebrate together. And if it happens the way we think it's gonna happen, then it's kind of what we expected. And we'll work all off season to kind of figure this out. And there's going to be a huge deep dive into what went wrong because make no mistake, this is an historic failure if the Mets don't make it. So again, we will talk about that if that happens. So good call, G Money. We see Ryan Stanek in the bullpen staring. And it almost feels like if Brooks Raley walks a guy or allows anybody to get on base, that's when you're going to see the next man in the game. And I guess, from a batter's standpoint, you don't give any opportunities for the Marlins hitters to get comfortable against anybody. All right, Tony Kidd with the update 2-1 Reds after 3. All right, so I mean the Brewers didn't tie the game. They didn't take the lead, but they did cut into the lead. So as Mets fans, we got to take what we can get. That's some positive news. Hopefully the Brewers will continue to pound away. I was saying to all the Mets fans down here, especially the ones that went to the game yesterday, I was like, I just can't imagine. I can't see the Brewers just getting swept. I just can't. And, I know they have less to play for, but it's just hard to envision. Oh, man. Norby got a hit. Let's see what type of pitch he throws. All right. Up, down, pretty much all out over the plate. See, this is what this is exactly we kind of picked up this trend already. As soon as the pitcher lets somebody, whoever the pitcher is, as soon as they allow a runner to get on base, it looks like that's when Carlos Mendoza is going to the pen. Whether it's a walk, whether it's a hit. All right, next man up. Now we got Ryan Stanek. Again, at least it keeps the batters off comfortable, off balance and uncomfortable. I know it's just some of these guys, you just don't have the best confidence in. Yeah, same situation. Great point, Tony, and it's got to be the same situation with the Reds. The Reds and the Mets. I believe they're the only two teams playing for something really. Everybody else is solidified in the playoffs. So these two teams are going to be all hands on deck. And I saw somebody commenting on Francona. Francona's a hell of a manager, doing a lot more with. I wouldn't say a lot less. I would say that team is a very young and up and coming team, and a guy like Terry Francona can bring them along a lot faster with all of his experience and his leadership abilities. I would love to have a guy like that at the helm. I was a fan of Buck. I was a fan of Buck. I think he would have done well in a locker room with superstars. I really do. Putting a younger, this was David Stern's choice to put a younger, inexperienced manager with all of these superstar players making 10 times his salary. It's really not easy. Putting Mendoza, he's more like a guy that should, I don't know. A team like the Marlins, they are really kind of up and coming. That's a team he can kind of grow with. I see Mendoza being a very good manager in 3 to 5 years, but that's not on our timetable. See, Ryan Stanek, the thing I've noticed about him is he is mixing up his pitches a lot more instead of trying to throw the hell out of it. He's thrown multiple sliders already. But all he was trying to throw is over 100 miles per hour every single time. So at least he's mixing up pitches a little better. Oh my God. All right. So we got ball in the gap. All right, so we see more of what we've seen all year. Ryan Stanek surrenders the lead, allows a double in the gap to left center field, and a run comes around, scores, and the New York Mets are unfortunately down 1-0. Kind of saw that coming, but what did he throw? He threw a slider off some type of off-speed pitch. It looks like he threw it right down the middle of the plate. And it was nothing really Taylor could have done. It was just a line drive rope. And very good running by the runner. Was that Norby? Like it's only 1-0. If you're gonna win a game, you got to at least score one. So, I mean, we got to at least score one run. Now you're gonna see Stanek get angry, rear back, and you're gonna start seeing him throw 100, 101, like he's doing right now. Hopefully, he doesn't leave one out over the plate, and that leads to a 3-0 lead. Hit your corners. And that pitch right there, and I know a lot of you are 30 seconds ahead of me, but Francisco Alvarez was setting up high in the zone, and maybe he was crossed up, and Stanek literally threw a ball in the dirt. Mets gonna storm back. Need the pen to go all in. It looks like the pen, we are going all in. That is the good thing. You need this offense right now to put some runs on the board. You really do. You really do in the biggest way. Offense it'll take pressure off the pitchers. I mean, right now we just need to score. Juan Soto has failed. Runners in scoring position, hitting to double play. Vientos has failed. Runners in scoring position. McNeil has failed. Runners in scoring position. So again, a lot of our guys who you kind of rely on, Juan Soto being the biggest one, has thus far failed when you had an opportunity. And again, all right, I mean, like literally, I'm telling you, this is what Ryan Stanek is known for. Why he's in the game, you know, and I guarantee this was right over the plate. Hangs a slider right over the plate. I mean, lucky this is not a home run. Hits off the top of the wall, middle part of the wall. Nothing Tyrone Taylor could do, and another run scores. And now the Mets are down 2-0. And again, did I like the aggressive nature by Carlos Mendoza? I did it in the beginning of the game, but like to take out Brooks Raley and Brazabon to go to a guy like Ryan Stanek, I mean, doesn't really seem like the most effective choices. Well, we're not done yet. We're not done yet. It's 2-0. It's 2-0. We're not done yet. We got to get out of this inning. It is the bottom of the fourth inning. 5 innings left. Got to get out of this inning. Bottom line, we have Tyler Rogers, the submariner, coming in. Got to get out of this inning. Stop the momentum of the Marlins. And folks, I always say this. I usually come on after. I don't really do live streams during the game, but I always say it's very important when the opposition scores. How do you respond? We're going to see how the Mets respond after they get out of this inning. But again, close the door right now. Get out of this damn inning, and let's put some runs on the board. Put some runs on the board. And if they can't do that, then, this is not looking like a playoff team. Hasn't looked like a playoff team. We're just hoping against hope they could find a way to back into the playoffs. There you go, Giovanni. We got some positivity. And then after all this, we need our Reds update. Oh, the Brewers. The Brewers took the lead, right? Wait, I'm trying to refresh this. Hey, we got some positivity. The Brewers just took the lead. They are winning 3-2. So the New York Mets right now, this is going to be ridiculous. The Brewers win, and the Mets, if they don't pull this out. But the Brewers right now are winning. So what the Mets need to do is score. All right, let's go. We got some positivity. Wow. They just showed a stat on the screen, and it says when the Marlins are leading at any point in the game. So they're leading any point in the game. Their record is 54-10. Hopefully we can make it 54-11. Yeah, explosive. I saw that. So the Brewers are winning. Important thing, the Brewers are winning. Who was that? Two-run homer. Brewers are winning. So again, we got some great news. Brewers are, like I said, I don't care what they apparently are playing for. Anybody could win on any given day. The Brewers have 96 wins. 96 wins. They're a hell of a ball club. They could win, and they are winning right now. Oh, damn. All right, so we got 3-0 Marlins. Again, the Mets continue to not stop the bleeding. You got to stop this bleeding right now. And Mendoza, one of the first things he's going to be questioned is all these pitching changes early on. Especially, Brazoban and Raley. I mean, they weren't really in much trouble, and you bring in Stanek. I mean, that's probably going to go down as one like the 100th, one of his many bad decisions. Yeah, this is the ex-Giant that we gave up. We gave up Drew Gilbert, Blade Tidwell, and Jose Budo for. So this is what we. I mean, like honestly, there's so many times where I'm like, oh, you know what, Jose Budo, I'd rather have him in the game. And then we also gave up Drew Gilbert and Blade Tidwell for this gentleman right here, who is going to be a free agent. And probably throw salt in the wounds. I guarantee he's going to sign with the Giants. I guarantee he's going to sign back with the Giants, making the Mets look even worse. Unreal, folks. The Mets are down 4-0. Unreal. And I'm telling you, again, it's going to make it even worse that the Brewers are winning. But, this is on Mendoza. This is on Mendoza. Bringing Stanek in was not warranted at that point. I agree. Manaea had no control. Taking him out was smart. Now you have very little pitchers left. You're down 4-0, and this is Mendoza's fault. How many times have you seen Stanek give up big homers, give up all these shots? Now you got Diaz right now. Oh my God! You got Diaz now. Now you got Diaz up. You're already kind of losing the game. This is mismanagement at the highest level. Yeah, explosive. That's Soto at bat with runners on first. Yeah, I have that highlighted as the worst missed opportunity. I mean, but then again, we haven't had many opportunities. I think we have 3 at bats with runners in scoring position: Vientos, McNeil, and Juan Soto. All right, so Lindor ends the inning, ends the pain. I mean, the funny thing is, the Mets have played so badly. The Reds, they don't even have to win to get in the playoffs. The Reds don't even have to win. Yeah, Ezekiel, shaking my head. You have so many Mets fans in that Marlins Stadium, whatever that stadium is called. You got so many Mets fans that made the trip down there. And, it is just so sad. And, if you're listening to the Marlins broadcast, like I am, I don't know how many people listen to the Marlins broadcast. They are so damn smug. They are so damn smug. And they are laughing at us, literally laughing at us. I have the broadcast on that I'm listening to. They're making fun of us. They're referring back to all the times the Marlins have knocked out the Mets in the past, treating us like a laughing stock, and Carlos Mendoza. And this is what I mean, where you need that leadership, you need that baseball guy who is, advanced in X's and O's. That is not Carlos Mendoza. As much as I like him as a person, as much as I think that he has potential in the future, he is not the general we need when we go into battle in these tough situations. He's not. He's just not. So, we're going to see. Hopefully, I said it's how you respond. Let's see how the Mets respond right now. And this is going to be a very pivotal inning. But G Money, you bring in a good point. Final out now. I mean, Ryan Helsley would be worse to put in. But here's the deal: when you take out Raley, right, who's one of your more trusted pitchers, and Brazoban, who wasn't looking that bad, now you're only in the fourth inning, or only in the bottom of the third inning, and you went through Manaea. You went through Brazoban. You went through Raley, who was one of your better pitchers. So now you're going to leave many opportunities that you have to go to Stanek, that you have to go to Helsley. Again, at those times, it wasn't really necessary to bring in Stanek. It really wasn't. All right, so let's see how we respond now. Let's see how we respond, folks. Thus far, the Mets are looking like the Mets have looked for the last 4 months. And the Brewers just extend their lead over the Reds 4-2. So again, these updates right now, I mean, they would have felt so much better if the Mets were doing something. And again, the Marlins' number one goal in the beginning of this week, their number one goal was to knock the Mets out of the playoff. They circled this series on the calendar, and that was their goal. Wow, folks. I mean, you just see Francisco Alvarez. He struck out on a ball like 6 inches outside. Oh, you saw on X how someone said this is historic how the Mets have clapped. I mean, it does. It feels historic. I believe this is the worst collapse in New York Mets history. How much resources they spent this year. Juan Soto contract giving him over $800 million, making all those trades at the deadline, giving up all those assets. The New York Mets, make no mistake, went all in. They believed that they were a World Series caliber team, and that is such a scary concept when you look at this rotation that doesn't appear anything close to almost a playoff, a team. Like, to think that this pitching rotation could contend in a World Series, is a bit comical. And now we're seeing with Mauricio up, and he is making these at bats are non-competitive, and we are seeing why. You miss Brett Beatty. You really miss Brett Beatty in these situations because again, Ronnie Mauricio hasn't been in competitive ball for weeks now, and now he's forced to play in this game, and he's just not locked in at all. Umpires be screwing the Mets over balls and strikes. Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree that last pitch to Alvarez was 6 inches outside, but the Mets, they have to take care of business. They have to take care of business. If they really do. I mean, if they're gonna rely on the ump, you can't rely on the ump. The umps, they miss these type of calls every now and then. Yeah, I mean the Alvarez one, that was no doubt. It was 6 inches outside, probably 8 inches outside. But all right, so the Mets got to create opportunities for themselves. We have a man on base. Again, let's see how the Mets respond after going down 4-zip. Let's see. Chip away. That's their point. Chip away. Let's put some runs on the board. I mean, Cabrera, you compare a guy like Stanek to a guy like Cabrera. I mean, it's not even close, but Cabrera is locating all his pitches on the outside corner perfectly, breaking balls, fastballs. He's doing whatever he wants. Look at that nasty pitch inside corner, Tyrone Taylor. That is one of the nastiest pitches I saw today. And then you compare that to Ryan Stanek, who can throw over 100 miles per hour, just like Cabrera, and then he's throwing sliders up, out, and over the plate. Wow, I'm telling you, that Tyrone Taylor pitch, it was 2 feet inside. Probably shouldn't have swung, but it was a nasty pitch. Brewers aren't laying down. I mean, it didn't make sense for the Brewers to lay down. I mean, they're going to have plenty of rest. They have the bye. And again, you want to go into the playoffs with a win. You don't want to go on a 3-game losing streak, losing 6 out of your last 10 losing. You would be 4-6 in your last 10. You want to go into the playoffs on a high note. I'm just like imagining what the post game interview is going to sound like with Mendoza. I mean, yesterday he almost looked like he was going to cry. And his tone, Mendoza's tone, has certainly shifted in the last week. Now he's actually stating things that the Mets are doing wrong. Our fundamentals, our errors. He's calling out a couple pitches here and there. Last week it was all like, oh, we're going to do this. We have the talent, we have the experience. But, I'm just interested to see what he's going to say today. All right, so we got something cooking right now. We got something cooking right now. Fifth inning, we got a couple runners on base. This is the opportunity right now. Okay. All right, so we got top. All right, and a good thing is, you're making this guy work. 23 pitchers, Cabrera in the fifth. So he's got 80 pitches right now. Not going to go much further. And you got yet again another opportunity. Second golden opportunity. Juan Soto, multiple runners on base. So let's see if the $800 million man comes through. See if I miss comments, I apologize. Last comment, Mervin. The Mets are a very bad team. Honestly, you're not really breaking any news. The Mets have played very, very bad as of late, especially the last 4 months. But yet they still have the chance to make the playoffs if they can win this, and the Brewers win. So Juan Soto, 3-0. I see a 3-0 count on my screen. I know people are ahead of me, but again, this is a huge at bat. Okay, so G Money, you're ahead of me. Juan Soto walks, passing the baton to Pete Alonso with the bases loaded. Now, this becomes the biggest at bat. And now you have the tying run coming to the plate. Pete Alonso has come up clutch in many situations. Phillies last year, Brewers biggest home run of probably in, I don't want to say maybe, I don't know, Mets history is kind of big, but one of the biggest home runs in Mets history. Um, let's see. Let's see what happens. Damn. Well, folks, Pete Alonso just hit a missile, probably over 110 miles per hour. That was a rope, folks. Just hit it right to, not right to the left fielder, but close enough to the left fielder where all he had to do is go over a couple strides. Cabrera got lucky. The Marlins got lucky. The Mets got unlucky in that situation. Damn. I mean, even if that would have been a double, that would have at least got 2 runs. I would have cut the lead in half. I mean, we're relying very heavily on the top of our lineup: Lindor, Soto, and Alonso. We're gonna need some production from the bottom of the lineup. We really are. We really are. I mean, right now, if you're a pitcher from the Marlins, it's very easy to navigate against this lineup. It really is. It really is. I mean, he was very fortunate right now to get Pete Alonso to hit it to the left fielder, but we need the bottom of the lineup to start getting on base, start coming through. because this is gonna get I don't want to say ugly, but it's gonna end pretty quickly. Pete's probably thinking right now, possibly could be one of his last at bats as a Met. But Pete's had a season. He's had a complete good dominant season. And last couple games, he's been having clutch at bats, clutch home runs, clutch hits, but you can't win when you only have one or two hitters, hitting their stride or doing well. You need a collaborative effort, and the Mets haven't had that consistency. All right, so now we got Edwin Diaz, the Mets closer, coming in to a 4-0 lead by the Marlins. So a 4-0 deficit, you're bringing in your closer. Not ideal. Absolutely not ideal. And you're using Edwin Diaz. Nobody's on base. I mean, not ideal. So I'm assuming you're going to at least have to use him for 2 innings. Now, I guess it's going to depend on how many pitches he throws. And if you're the Marlins hitters, you're probably going to try to see if you can make Diaz throw a lot of pitches because, he's a closer, probably not going to throw much more than 20 pitches. Yeah, I see lovely breaking waves. You say the Marlins know how to play the Mets. Let's make no mistake also. The Marlins are a good team. They are a good team. They've made drastic improvement over last year. They are 16 games better than they were last year. They are a team on the rise. They got good, young, dynamic players. And you see they play with that hunger, that energy. I mean, that's what, we used to have that excitement. The Mets right now are playing like they're going to work. It's just another work day. And, that's not as effective in a 162 game season. And it's tough. It seems like it's tough for the Mets players to get up for a game like this. You're fighting for the playoffs. You're playing the Marlins this last series, and it seemed like the Mets are having trouble getting up for these games. Now, Diaz lays one over the middle of the plate. Wow. Bad location by Diaz. Good stroke. I think that was Jacob Marcy. Hits it deep to right center field. Luckily, the park holds that, or it could have been a 5-0 game. Wow. I mean, these are just Mets pitches. I mean, it's just a lot of issues with location. Another deep fly ball hit to left field as the second out. That was better location. It was about almost a foot inside. But Lopez, he's quick. He's very quick on that pitch and still almost drove it out of the park. I hope Mendy gets fired. I mean, I believe he's going to get fired. I do. There's got to be accountability. The only thing that throws me through a loop is you have David Stearns, who came out, and I keep saying this because, I was shocked when he did it. He came out on, August 26th on a podcast, and he said, no, Carlos Mendoza is coming back for the 2026 season. He said it in the middle of the Mets playing horribly. So I'm not sure if he said it thinking it's going to motivate Mendoza and the team to play much better down the stretch. And then now he can change his mind, knowing he can change his mind, or if he officially made the decision before the season was over that he's going to bring him back. I mean, dumb to say it then and dumb to make a decision at that point. All right, so Diaz gets out of the inning. He didn't throw that many pitches, so he still has enough gas in the tank to go out for the sixth. Again, the Mets have to chip away, chip away, chip away. Let's see if the Mets going into the top of the sixth inning, folks. Top of the sixth. You got the sixth, the seventh, eighth. You got 4 more innings. 4 more innings. Let's see the fight, the life in this team. And again, I'm seeing a lot of players right now with their heads down. I'm seeing a lot of players with their shoulders slumped. And again, Carlos Mendoza. And I look at Carlos Mendoza, and Carlos Mendoza, when the camera pans to him, almost looks like he's about to cry. So you're in a situation where that dugout, that feel in that dugout is not very positive. So again, a big hit would be crucial to turn to that feeling around. He took Mania out after 2 walks. I mean, he took Mania out for a couple of reasons. Yes, he walked a couple of guys, but he just wasn't locating his fastball. He had a problem locating his fastball. He was missing by 2 feet. I think I counted like 7, 8 pitches. Those balls that he threw were 2 feet inside, 2 feet outside, above the strike zone. So he wasn't even competitive pitches. So I mean, I'm pretty sure he was looking at the whole thing with Mania. And then Mania's thing is when he cannot locate, then he ends up laying throws a slurve right over the middle of the plate, throws a fastball right over the middle of the plate, and then that could have been a 3-0 game even much earlier on. I mean, you could question anything right now because it didn't work out what the Mets did. I mean, Stanek looked terrible, and Tyler Rogers didn't look much better. Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, '07 was horrible. '07 was horrendous. And '08, it felt a little less. I mean, it still hurt, but you saw it the year before that. And, now you're like, okay, now you're going to kind of knew what to expect. I remember, like, I literally had a conversation with Jose Reyes in 2006 after the Mets got knocked out of the NLCS by the Cardinals. And, Jose Reyes was literally about to make a trip to the Dominican Republic. And, his big thing was that '07 team was supposed to be dominating. Never, obviously didn't happen. It was actually a huge failure. See, the thing is, right now, there should be somebody in that dugout bringing all the guys up right now. Every time the camera pans to the dugout, you see everybody's head slumped. Everybody's got that look on their face, glazed over. That it's over. It's not over. It's not over right now. That was the thing about the Yankees teams of old. With the Derek Jeters. It was never over till it was over. This team. Really. I mean, I'm not liking the body language, but let's see so they get a big hit and it changes the body language. All right, we got Vientos line drive, get some base. There we go. There we go. Mark Vientos base hit. Let's get something going. Top of the sixth inning. You have Milwaukee still winning over Cincinnati. Still winning over Cincinnati. So again, the Mets, if they could somehow find a way to score, somehow a way to put some runs on the board, they have a prime opportunity to still walk into the playoffs. Where is Is hey TP Joseph, are you still in here? TP is a Marlins fan. I mean, the Marlins are looking really good. I got to say that. See, you're a Marlins fan, right? You're the biggest Marlins fan. Now, I honestly, I really do like the Marlins. But the Mets right now, they need a big hit. They need a big hit. No, TP, you are. I'm telling you, one of the best members on this channel by far. You've always supported the channel, supported the Mets. I mean, you are the best. Great information, great knowledge. But the Marlins, they're great. They look like they have potential to actually do some damage in the future. And right now on the Marlins station, they're showing the highlights from '07 and '08, knocking out Tommy Glavine, Luis Castillo. Oh my God, Luis Castillo. Charles, we're in commercial, so let's look at your interesting theory. Okay, let's talk about the Reds sweeping 4 games from the Cubs and then winning 2 from the Brewers. I think the Cubs and the Brewers rolled over so the Mets don't make it into the postseason. Well, I didn't look at those games really. I didn't watch those games, so I don't know if how the Cubs played. I don't know how the Brewers have really played other than watching the updates. But it's just hard to imagine teams would roll over. Now, I'm pretty sure teams have a board. Hey, who would you rather play internally? They're probably not going to say. Probably like they don't care whoever they play. But internally, if you really think if this Mets team ever got hot, they do have key components. I mean, you got Soto, who's done really well in the playoffs. Alonso's done really well in the playoffs. Vientos has done really well in the playoffs. Nimmo, Lindor, you should have a lights out closer in Diaz. You should have an up and coming ace in Nolan McLean. The Mets have some components that, especially in a short series, could be very dangerous. But right now you're seeing the Mets really kind of lacking a lot of consistency with hitting. So it's if you can't hit, you can't put runs on the board. It's going to be a problem. See, Alvi right now, Alvarez should really be trying to drive the ball oppo. Not even trying to hit a home run, just maybe hit a ball in the gap, score 1 run. Let's not, just let's chip away, chip away. And you're going to notice that's the book on Alvarez, throwing the ball, that breaking ball, especially the slider outside, and they go further and further outside. That's usually how they do it. Once in a while, then they'll throw the fastball up and in because he's got the torn ligaments in his hand. If they somehow leave that pitch low and out over the plate, that's Alvarez's sweet zone. That's what he can really handle at this point. I mean, see what I mean? What they're doing with Alvy, all they're going to do is start throwing the breaking ball further and further and further outside. Wow. TP, good point. All of us would love to have the Mets owner and resources. Yeah, I mean, imagine a team like the Marlins, the Brewers. Those teams are, have such good ways of doing business, very smart, intelligent baseball organizations. If they had $300 million to exercise and spend, forget about it. I mean, a lot of this money is used to cover up mistakes. Again, make no mistake about that. A lot of it is used to cover up mistakes. And we've made a lot of mistakes. Manai is a mistake. Montaz is a mistake. Helsley's a mistake. A lot of mistakes. A lot of the guys we anticipated, you didn't trade Acuna. Acuna's done really nothing all year other than a pinch runner. A lot of mistakes. Oh, G Money, enjoy that dinner. As Francisco Alvarez strikes out on the outside corner, and that's exactly how they pitch him, outside corner. Wow, they really panned to the crowd, all the New York Mets fans with the sad faces, and rightfully so. They actually panned to a Yankee fan, and the Yankee fan actually had a sad face. Well, why is Torrens not in the game? I mean, that's actually a big thing. You need I want Taylor in the game. I want my best defensive lineup in the game, and I want a guy who will pass the baton over. That's actually a good point. In a game like this, I want Torrens in the game. I didn't hear that he tweaked anything, but that's another good point. Why isn't Torrens in the game? We see if you're a pitcher that can hit your spots, Francisco Alvarez has a huge weakness. The guy's got a torn ligament in his hand. He's got a broken pinky. I say anybody. I know he's had a couple big home runs, and maybe Carlos Mendoza he feels like he has an allegiance to him. But again, you got to put the best guy out there, and a guy like Torrens, going oppo right center field, single approach. Great guy behind the plate, great arm, great defensive guy. Him and Taylor, I wanted those two in the game down the stretch, but Mendoza sees things differently. And being sick of Alvarez, you're seeing the Alvarez who is hurt. Like we only saw the good Alvarez for 3 weeks in August when he came back from that minor league stint. You saw how good Alvarez can be, but the kid he's injury prone. So many damn injuries. It's very sad. Feel bad for him. I wish he gets better and comes back healthy. And TP, we are going to be very busy. And again, we're going to cover this off season, everything. I want to, we're going to get to the bottom of this because there have been a lot of problems. And, people say, and they say this all the time when I put the videos out there about the issues. And I've been talking about these issues since, I would say, August. Probably even into July when the Mets started to trend in a different direction. And people say, no, it's not true. The Mets this is just a small part of the season. It's just the regular ebbs and flows. But I brought this up way earlier that the Mets are not playing fundamental baseball, and it's going to rear its ugly head, and it certainly did. All right, so now you have Diaz coming in the bottom of the 6th inning, and his job is to only make sure that no other runs score. And Diaz just threw a ball like 5 feet outside. That's why I stopped. So if you are not subscribed, subscribe, because we are going to have a fun off season. It's going to start when it starts. If it starts at 6 o'clock, so be it. It starts at 6 o'clock. We're going to cover the Mendoza saga. Is Mendoza going to be here? What's going on with David Stearns? What's going on with the players? What's going on with Pete Alonso? Is he coming back? What are we going to do with the starting rotation? How are we going to upgrade the defense? How are we going to make sure this offense is more consistent? Which young hitters, players are we going to rely on or put on the trading block? A lot of things this team has to iron out. And at the end of the day, what the hell are the Mets going to do with the payroll? Because the Mets right now are at $300 million already for next year without making any additions. And that's if you bring Pete back at around $30 million. So the Mets are not in a good payroll situation to start the offseason. Last year, if you remember, the Mets had a lot of payroll falling off. This offseason, it's not the same. And, you see it right now. McNeil's got his head down. I think McNeil is this is going to be his last couple innings with the New York Mets. McNeil's a very emotional guy, gets upset. The Mets really got to they got to get younger. They got to retool. They got to bring fresh, young energy, positive energy to that field, to that clubhouse. It's G Money, you're completely fine. You could honestly, whatever you do is completely fine. Don't worry about it. We love you here. You bring a lot of good stuff to the table. I appreciate all the great comments. But when you got to eat, you got to eat. So no worries. I mean, the playoffs are going to be very interesting as well. You know, Reds do make it. They'll be playing the Dodgers, I guess. You never know what happens, especially in a short wild card series. Am I into hockey? Not really. I mean, I'm a Rangers fan, but I'm not really that into it, to be honest. I'm not really. All right, so Mauricio got a couple opportunities. Diaz gets out of the fifth and the sixth inning pretty easily. It is getting late very, very quickly. Again, I'm gonna say the Mets need to put some runs on the board. Need to put some runs on the board. I mean, if they score 0 runs, it doesn't matter how many runs the Marlins score. The Marlins could have beat them 1-0. But again, this offense was supposed to be the best attribute for this team. So it's just so sad that that is the thing right now holding this team back. And again, I'm looking at the Brewers score. The Brewers are up 4-2, 4-2. And, the Reds right now, I mean, we talk about putting pressure, they could sit right back and, it looks like all they have to do is just get through this game and let the Mets do what the Mets are doing. Wow. I mean, honestly, I'm looking at Twitter or X. They are killing the Mets, killing the Mets. Oh, jeez. everybody's, on X right now, they are posting pictures of Mets fans with gloves over their faces, Mets fans looking stunned. It's really a reflection of this team because they are playing lifeless. Watching teams like legendary teams of the past, like the Yankees, I never ever remember seeing Yankee fans looking like that in the third and the fourth inning. I never did. The game wasn't anywhere near over, but the Mets just inspire this much confidence. This is how much confidence the Mets inspire, unfortunately. But you know what? Again, we're gonna hope for the best. You have 3 innings, and we're gonna take it right down to the end. If it's the ninth inning and we're still down, we're gonna still hope. It's not over until it's over. But I think the Mets have to project better with the body language because right now they are playing like they expect to lose. So we have Mauricio to lead off, and let's see what type of a bat he takes. Get on base. Got to get on base. Anyway, take a walk. Doesn't matter. Get on base. Make this guy throw pitches. Enriquez. Ronnie does have a walk in the fifth, so he did get on base this game. And hopefully we can set up the top of the lineup like we did a couple innings ago. All right, Ronnie. Lazy fly ball to left field. Not good. Really appreciate it. I really do. I really do. I can't. I know it looks over. It definitely does look over, and the stats aren't in the Mets' favor. Now you got Jared Young in the game. Jared Young in the game, and thank you so much for the donation. I do appreciate that, King Supreme. But we're going to stick with it. We're going to stick with it. And again, as soon as the game's over, the offseason starts, we're going to listen to Carlos Mendoza. We're going to analyze every single part. So if you are not part of the channel, subscribe. If you didn't like today's video, please like the video because it does really help. Like the live stream, it does kind of help out in a tremendous way. But thank you all. I do appreciate it. We're gonna stay here and we're gonna support the team. I mean, it's only a 4-0 deficit. It's only a 4-0 deficit. The Mets are playing like they're down 10 runs. I 100% agree. This is, I was trying to think what would be the most painful thing? Would it be the most painful thing? Would it be the Reds win and that would it be the Mets win? Okay, and then the Reds win, or would it be the Brewers win and that the Mets lose? And I think that this is more painful because the Mets still on game 162 on the last day of the year still had an opportunity to make the playoffs if they just would have won. So I think this is going to be the most painful outcome, unfortunately. So think about this. The Mets literally take it down to the most painful outcome. And then to throw more salt in the wound, this brings you back to a couple of weeks ago when the Reds defeated the Mets and took that head-to-head matchup against us. And again, that's another opportunity that we could have seized a couple of weeks ago. You have Lindor being extremely patient today. He knows he's got to get on base, already having 2 walks. Ryan Helsley looks like he's getting up. He's getting ready. Oh, G Money ahead of me. Okay, so Lindor with the double. That's good stuff. Wow, you are way ahead of me. I'm in Florida. I'm watching the Marlins broadcast. It's really lacking. It's Spectrum, so I really. Jeez, wow. That's I don't know how they're gonna score that, but that's one of the craziest, luckiest plays. So hopefully, all right. I mean, this is a lucky play, folks. Goes right under the glove, and Lindor gets the second. So great job with the hustle. Let's see if the Mets could take advantage of this opportunity. Again, you have Juan Soto, third time coming up in the game with runners in scoring position. So again, Juan Soto. And Buzz, unfortunately, no S and Y down here. They actually lied to me when I moved. I moved down here from Queens last year. They lied. When I got the package, they said it came with S and Y, but when I got here, it did not. So now I have the MLB network, and today, since they're playing the Marlins, it's on the Marlins regular channel. All right, so Soto. When I was in Queens, I was a couple parts. I was in Bayside, Flushing, Whitestone. But last part I was in Bayside. Oh yeah, Jacksonville doesn't have it either. Yeah, Florida. I don't know why. There's the S and Y is not down here. I mean, you're 100% right. This, again, Soto with the another opportunity. But again, look at Soto walking back to the dugout. I don't know if you missed it. I mean, he's walking back. They're all walking back like they expecting to lose. I mean, they lost this game as soon as the Marlins took the lead. In fact, maybe they lost this game even before that because they were retired 1-2-3 in the first inning. They didn't show any life early on, and now they're playing again so lifeless, so lifeless. Joseph, team is dead. There's no life. There is no life. I gotta agree. I got the national anthem. But again, we got to look back to opportunities. You had Pete Alonso hitting with the bases loaded. He lines into the left center fielder. Juan Soto's come up multiple times, multiple situations with runners in scoring position, hasn't done anything. $800 million. Not this game. Not working out. Thank God this train wreck is over. This was painful to watch. Yeah, I mean, you know what? This has been really painful. This has been a very painful season. So I mean, that is one positive, but I would have loved this team to make the playoffs. Just get in. Just get in. But then again, with how bad, because you want to know why? I'll tell you why. This team is very emotional. This team is very emotional. If they would have made the playoffs, I believe it would have uplifted everybody. Uplifted everybody. That's why I just wanted to see it. Carlos Mendoza, not strong enough leader himself to uplift the team. And who wrote it? Somebody. Ryan, 100% right. Yogi Berra, Greg Maddux, everybody, all the greats tout the game being 90% mental. Greg Maddux said it was 60% mental, but a large part of the game is mental. And even how much are they practicing the mental part of the game? I remember Greg Maddux said that he would do mental exercises 60% of the time to make sure that he was mentally strong on the field. What you see out there, what you see on the field is a mentally weak team, mentally weak. And again, we have all the resources in the world, so there should be no excuse. No excuse. And you hear in the last couple of days, Jose Iglesias. I don't know why we couldn't invest in him. Quintana, you couldn't give him $2 million. You want to give Montas 34. I mean, these are guys who are those veteran presences who literally brought something to the table. Mr. Mets, all you need to do now is think about all those games. The Mets were a bunt away from winning the game, and if they did, we would have clinched. Yeah, I mean, losing right now, literally, if the Reds lose and the Mets lose, they have the same record. Wow, 83, 84 wins. So, it's going to come down to so many games we just lost. So that just makes it even more painful. But hopefully the Mets take that pain, use this lesson, and they take a deep dive and they are 100% honest and transparent about what went wrong and do everything in their power to fix it. And that includes the philosophy of David Stearns. That includes the methodology of David Stearns. His process hasn't worked this year. The pitching lab hasn't worked this year. The trades haven't worked this year. The signings haven't worked this year. Nothing has worked this year. Last year, as the season went on, the team got better. This year, as the season went on, the team got worse. So what led to that? What was the point, the turning point? Drastic turnaround from the middle of June. Middle of June, this team, all of a sudden, the starting pitching was keeping them afloat. Edwards just gets a hit, just got on base. We are in the bottom of the seventh inning. So again, if the Mets don't score, it just doesn't matter what the Marlins do. The Marlins could stand pat. They have the lead. But again, the Mets have done many, many things incorrectly this year. And again, you can name what the biggest issues were. Starting pitching, I don't think that's any question. Defense, bad fundamentals. That offense, as good as it looked, has been ultra inconsistent. Bullpen, overworked, overused, so many different things. Then lack of leadership on the player side, lack of leadership from your manager. The X's and O's, I still say you need a general. You need to be confident in the guy leading you into battle. How confident, be honest with yourself. Even people who love Carlos Mendoza, how confident were you that Carlos Mendoza would lead this team into battle this weekend and make sure this team would come out fighting and give everything they've got? Because I don't see it, folks. I don't see it. I see players right now early in the game, second, third, fourth inning, heads down, shoulders slumped. Body language is everything. And you see a defeated team out there. And we still have an opportunity. As I speak to you, the Mets still have life, and they are looking like they are more than dead. They are looking like they've been buried 5 innings ago. So who do you pin that on? And Mendoza already said a couple games ago that the team was feeling down. And again, rightfully so, but the team put themselves in that position, and you led them down that way. And again, I blame Stearns. I blame Mendoza. I blame the players. I blame everyone. Key to life. Well, you know what? You're 100% Ryan. You make all the sense in the world. The mental aspect of it is very, 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 very important. I think that's ignored so much. Psychology of things, it's a lot of that stuff is ignored. How these players feel affects how they play. A guy like Ryan Helsley, who's pitching right now, I know the big thing was he was pitching, he was tipping his pitches supposedly, right? But, the guy was an all-star closer, almost, what would he say, 49 games, dynamic, 100 plus mile per hour fastball, dynamic slider, and then all of a sudden he can't pitch. He can't pitch. Was he tipping his pitches? Did he lose confidence? So many different things go into it, and then also the New York Mets, and I keep saying this over and over, you know, the fundamental part of the game is huge. If the Mets don't play fundamental ball, they can lose to anybody. Anybody, anybody. What have the Mets been doing over these last 2 months to correct that? What have they been doing? And then also, what happened to this pitching lab? Why was the pitching lab so effective last year? And this year, the pitching lab is so not effective. And every pitcher is not doing well. And I want to know what goes into the pitching lab. Like, what is, the dynamics behind the pitching lab? Because that is also a puzzling mystery. Elvin. Oh, what a stat. 0-69 when trailing after 8 innings. Those has to go after the season is over. Now, I'm just thinking about this, Elvin. What if this is the one game? What if the Mets can come back and go 1-69, and the only time the Mets come back after trailing after 8 is the game that they need to? And they only need one. They only need one at this point. But again, I think I'm kicking a dead horse. But you know what? It would be amazing if they can go 1-69, and that one time could be today. Damn, and the ugliness is just getting uglier as we see Helsley sailing balls over Alvarez. You see the runner taking extra bases. And again, hopefully the Mets could just get out of this inning and put a couple runs. Now you got 2 innings. You got 2 innings. And again, I wish the Mets would compartmentalize it. You had a bunch of innings. You had, I believe, 6 or 7 innings to chip into a 4-0 lead. Now it gets a little more daunting. You have 2 more innings left. So, again, chipping into it. And then if you don't do anything in the 8th, now you're down to a 4-0 lead, which now it begins to look insurmountable. But a 4-0 lead over the course of 7 innings isn't that much. As we see Ryan Helsley walking another hitter. It's first and third, 2 outs, and the Mets are hoping and praying that no other run scores. Because honestly, if another run scores, I think I might lose confidence. I mean, I've lost a lot of confidence, but I still feel, hey, if you load the bases, you still got the tying run up there. Um, sorry, I'm just gotta get more iced tea. There we go. Pitch on the outside corner. Inning over. Mets get out of it. No damage. It's still 4-0. Now, again, clock is ticking. You got 2 innings left. Let's see. Can the Mets show any life? Any life at all? Can we show a pulse? Right now in game 162, the Mets have not shown any pulse, any life. And again, I believe this. As much as I like the guy, Carlos Mendoza, I think he's going to go very soon after this game. And I think even he knows it. Guy almost looks like he's crying in the post-game shows. Yeah, I got it. Yeah, you want to just... Yeah. Thanks. Got a new Arizona. There we go, Mr. Mets. Look, this is what I wish we had in the dugout. Screw it. I'm going to be positive for the next 2 innings. One last time. We got 2 innings of life left, folks. 2 innings of life. Let's see. Let's see if the Mets can magically turn it on. You've seen crazier things in baseball. Crazier things. I know we're not feeling good. We're not. The Mets have given us nothing to be positive about. Z Buzz, this is for you. Thank you for the Arizona. I appreciate it. Buzz bought me in Arizona. Appreciate that. Well, I mean, the Mets built a very early lead, like 21 games, over 500. The first half of the year, the New York Mets continued to do what they did last year. I mean, that's the really sad part of it. And then, like you said, they survived all of these very big losing streaks. Multiple 7-game losing streak. That's ridiculous. Playing down the stretch as badly as they've played, they shouldn't be in any position to make the playoffs. And again, still they're gifted a golden opportunity. It's in the top of the 8th inning. The Brewers are winning 4-2 over their rival, not rival, but their competitor, the Reds. And, the Brewers are taking care of business. The Reds look like they're going to lose. But the Mets, they're not taking care of business. And it looks like we're going to lose 2 out of 3 to the Marlins. And again, a lot of the games, the series that I had circled on my calendar against the Marlins, against the Nationals, those series I had circled. Okay, we can win at least 2 out of 3, but it looks like we're going to be losing multiple of those series. Stanley, how's it going? Stearns will keep his job, win or lose. I agree with that. He will keep his job. I'm not saying he deserves to, but he was given this position for the long haul. But, the thing is, I don't think in Steve Cohen's mind, after he invested all that money in Soto and invested all this money this year, bringing Alonso back, giving Manaea $75 million, I don't think there was any world, okay, we have a runner on base, Alonso gets on base, here we go, come on, let's get some life. I don't think there was any world where Steve Cohen envisioned this sort of failure. No way. After last year, 2 games short, you bring Senga's supposed to be healthy. You add him to a team that didn't have Senga last year. You have that pitching lab in year 2. Hopefully now you're going to have the pitching even better, even more stacked. I'm sorry, I'm just paying attention. You got Nimmo. Nimmo lines a ball to center field. You got one out, man on first. Another decently hit ball right to the center fielder. All right, so we got 5 outs left. All right, let's see. Mark, I always say Mark comes up clutch or came up clutch. He's got an opportunity right now. He's been pretty patient this game. Let's see if Mark can take one big swing. And I'm not even, I don't even care if he could just pass the baton. But Mark, he has the ability to go deep. That's why I mention it. There you go, throwing Mark outside. He's staying very disciplined. And TP gives us a little inside look into the Marlins. Very, familiar with the Marlins. So the pitcher on the mound has been a nail biter pitcher this year. Could be the inning. So, we'll see. We will see. I mean, it looks like his control isn't really there. So there we go. There we go. Okay. There we go. There we go. Now we got 2 men on base. One more guy gets on base. You got the tie and run coming to the plate. And we have Jeff McNeil, Jeff the Squirrel McNeil. I know people are ahead of me. I'm hoping this guy works the count and doesn't swing at the first pitch. I could just envision swinging at the first pitch, double play, but hopefully not. Knew it. Knew he was going to swing at the first pitch. Yeah, Tony, the Mets have not taken care of business against the teams that they should have. Marlins and the Nats not doing well against them. Wow. They keep showing. And again, I'm watching the Marlins broadcast. They must have done it about 20 times, panning to the Met fans in the crowd, putting their hands in their lap. And again, wow, Jeff McNeil literally just swung out. I mean, Jeff's gone. Jeff is gone. He just swung at one of the ugliest swings. Ugly swing, ugly swing. Probably just trying to foul the ball off, but that was an ugly swing. I mean, look at. I have no confidence. I have such little confidence in the end of this lineup. And now you got a guy up, Francisco Alvarez. As much as I love him, he's injured. And they're going to pound him outside. You're going to see pound him outside. They'll throw the fastball in the outside corner, and now they're going to start throwing breaking pitches to get him to chase. There's the breaking pitch. Ooh, that hurt. Huge Mets fan. How do we give a four to the Marlins? I mean, my question is, giving a four to the Marlins, you have bad pitchers out there, Ryan Stanek. That's no surprise. But not even scoring a run, not even scoring a run, not even putting up a fight. Four run deficit. Again, you have most of the game to fight back and claw your way into it. And the New York Mets have not even put up a run, not even a run, not even a fight. All right. So again, the pitch that I said it was going to strike him out, they throw a breaking ball outside corner. Again, Francisco Alvarez. That is his third strikeout, folks. That is his third strikeout. Why Luis Torrens is not in this game, I don't know. I don't know. Especially Brett Beatty is out of the lineup. You have another huge strikeout candidate that you inserted in Francisco Alvarez. Crazy to have three guys hit 30 home runs or more and might not make the playoffs. The fact of the matter is, the end of the lineup right now, it has been so damn inconsistent. You got no starting pitchers, you got no leadership, you got no defensive capabilities, you play unfundamental baseball. You're a team that is extremely emotional. When you're down, the whole team is all down. Everybody's got their heads down, their shoulders slumped. Everybody's expecting to lose in the third inning, and they play like it. You got lifeless, pathetic baseball that you're seeing right now. This team again gave up in the second or third inning. Whenever the other team scored a couple runs, the Mets gave up, and they didn't even come out on a lighting the world on fire. The first inning, Lindor strikes out, Soto hits a blooper, and Alonso strikes out. So the Mets didn't even fight early on. So I don't know. It's just another typical Mets loss. Disgusting, giving us no hope. And again, throwing more salt in the wound. I didn't check the Brewers game in a while, but I'm pretty sure the Brewers are still winning. At this point right now, if the Mets lose, I'd love the Reds to just win. I just love them to win just to feel better, because it's going to feel so much worse to have that opportunity still on game 162. The Mets still could have got into the playoffs. And it still appears like the Brewers, it's in the top of the ninth inning. The Brewers are winning 4-2, and it looks like the Reds, all they got to do is just sit there, and they're going to make the playoffs because the Mets can't score. Damn it. I didn't see the Tacoma report, but I think the Tacoma report is going to be the first of many reports that are going to be noting a lot of players being extremely unhappy. I think a lot of the turmoil is going to come out. Again, you heard a little thing about the Jose Iglesias, about him exposing how people aren't really supporting each other, about how the number one goal last year was just about winning. This year, it's about more or less competing with each other. You're going to hear more things. Diaz not being happy, not really surprised. I think we're going to hear a lot of stuff that not really going to surprise me, but we're going to kind of cover all of that. Because right now, the Mets right now deserve all of the negativity. They deserve it. They led down this fan base down a road that this was supposed to be the year, and that this was the team. Come out to Citi Field, support us. Steve Cohen kind of, scolded the fan base. Hey, we're a winning team this year. Why isn't the ticket attendance reflecting it? Well, the Mets fans came out in droves, and supported this team. They supported Lindor when he was doing bad, Soto when he was doing bad. They got behind the players. They spent their hard-earned money. You know how much, everybody here knows how much money it is to go to a game. And again, bottom of the eighth inning, and you see the Marlins. I think that's Norby getting a double. At this point right now, if the Mets can't score, it just doesn't really matter. It really doesn't matter. But again, we're going to see a lot of reports come out. We're going to cover that. The Alonso situation, we're going to cover that. That's probably going to be another thing. We're going to hear things about Soto. I guarantee it. Lindor. It's all going to come out. And I want everything to be transparent. I want the Mets to take an honest, deep dive into what went wrong. And again, be honest. If they're not going to be honest, then it doesn't make a difference. It's not going to help yourself out. What happened at the trade deadline? We didn't acquire one starting pitcher at the trade deadline. Did the New York Mets honestly believe that they had the starting rotation that was viable to make the playoffs and go into that World Series run? Did you? Did you think we were viable? And then you spent all those resources, beefing up your bullpen. Now, why would you do that if you don't have a starting rotation that is good enough to make the playoffs or good enough to take you to where you want to be, which is a World Series contender? So a lot of questions have to be answered. And then again, you have a quarterly appearance made by David Stearns, who literally gives you the same spiel every single time, saying what he thinks the fans want to hear, but really giving us nothing. So I know we're going to hear from Stearns soon. We're going to hear from Mendoza soon. Probably going to hear from Steve Cohen soon. Going to be very interested hearing all of them kind of speak to this disaster. What's up, Zig? Payback time for the Yanks and take Diaz. You know what? The Yankees might be interested in a couple Mets. Alonso might be interested in Diaz. And you got Cedric Mullins in the game. Another damn disaster by David Stearns. And David Stearns has not made one beneficial trade in 2 years. Could somebody think of one trade that David Stearns has made that has made this team significantly better? Because I can't think of one trade. Trevor, what's up? You're right. Mendoza sucks. He's not an inspiring manager. We were saying that earlier that, he's not that general you need. If you're going into battle and you need a win and you need to uplift your team, you need to motivate this team. This is not the guy. X's and O's, that's not his strong suit. You thought last year he was good at getting the team going, but, maybe it was the guys you had there. Maybe, damn. And you have Lindor not making the play. Tough play, not making it though. So now it's first and third, 1 out. And the Mets right now, you got Gregory Soto on the mound. And the Mets are in big trouble once again. They've been in big trouble. So, it's not like, oh boy, they're going to lose now. They were already set to lose. The Alonso saga is going to be crazy. As big as it was last year, it's going to be 10 times bigger this year because last year Alonso wanted his money, but the stats were down. So, they had that big coming of the minds, that meeting where Steve Cohen and Alonso and his representatives met. And Alonso straight up, I remember reading this in several different reports, straight up, and it was said that Alonso was upset. He straight up asked Steve Cohen, why aren't you paying me what I want? Why aren't you paying me, more than what you're giving me? And he basically said, well, you're an aging first baseman, and the market doesn't dictate it based on where you're trending. Go out there, have a monster season, and then we'll talk. Now, I think he had a monster season, and I still think the Mets and Steve Cohen aren't going to offer him what he wants. Now, what is going to be the excuse? So, therefore, you're going to have Pete Alonso pivot to another location. And based on the fact that he did have this renaissance year, there's going to be more teams naturally interested in a guy who can drive in 130 runs, hit 40 home runs, 40 plus doubles. That is premium stuff right there. And not to mention, he has been one of the only clutch hitters in the last couple of days. And I know he hasn't been doing that great today. He does have a hit, but that bases loaded situation in the fifth inning, he did hit a rope. Just had a little bad luck with the left fielder being right there. But he has been pretty clutch. And then still too, like, if you compare our situation and you compare it with the Phillies situation, the Phillies, got Dave Dombrowski a couple years ago, I think 2-3 years ago, and Dave's moves in the last couple years have been ultra aggressive. I think he's really thread the needle. I think he's really improved their pitching staff. The trades that he made this offseason, I mean, not this offseason, this trade deadline was so much superior to David Stearns, running circles around David Stearns, running circles around. I think this was a trade deadline disaster. Trading for a bunch of relievers who made zero impact and are all free agents. So you gave up all these assets for guys who will not impact the future and negatively impacted this season. How could you be for like everything? David Stearns is for everything. You think he would get lucky with one guy? One guy would be good. But every single, signing, Manaya, Montez, Helsley, well, I know these are not signings, they're trades. Helsley, Soto, Mullins, oh my God, a disaster. Every single one. Tyler Rogers, not impressive. So, again, a lot of reasons why this team has been so bad. But again, again, the mental aspect of this team, they still have talent, but they're playing like they expect to lose. And, their leader, their general, they don't have one. They don't have one on the field right now. Carlos Mendoza, you look at him in the press conference. He said the same thing for 60 straight games. 60 straight games from late July to, 2 weeks ago. He was saying the same thing, like, we got to do it. We have the talent. We have the experience. We're going to do it. He just changed his tune last week. He started talking about the lack of pitching, the lack of defense, the lack of, a fundamental play. Now he just starts identifying the obvious. But my question to him would be, what have you done to change that? What have you done to make sure that our defense improves, gets better? How have you prepared differently? That would have been my question. And we haven't been really focusing. It's just him mimicking the same, saying the same lines over and over and over. And you could see by his body language that he is not a man inspiring confidence. He is not a man inspiring any positive feelings. So again, it starts with the leader. That's David Stearns. That is Carlos Mendoza. But just by virtue of how the president position is working, it's more of a long-term position. I see the manager going. I see David Stearns staying. Not that he did a good job, but just by virtue of this being a long-term position and also developing the farm, signing international draft picks, drafting the right players. That whole thing is part of the job too, and that is more of a long-term vision. Right now, the Mets are in a bases-loaded situation. You have Edwards at the plate. Just by the way, Mervin's gone. He brought nothing to the table positive, so he's gone. Okay. Inning over. Gregory Soto's last pitch as a Met, he throws an 101 mile per hour pitch to get the last out. Probably the last pitch he will throw as a Met. A lot of change is going to happen. A lot of changes going to happen for the New York Mets. The Mets are down to their last 3 outs. No other way we could say it right now. We are down to our last 3 outs. Again, I've seen no fight this game. I've seen no heart. Superstar players had chances. Juan Soto had chances. Pete Alonso had chances. Lindor, he got on base several times with walks. He tried to hand the baton over, set up Juan Soto, but Juan Soto did nothing clutch this entire game, unfortunately. This is what fans are going to remember. I mean, the guy's having a pretty good year with numbers. Very good year. What am I saying? Having a very good year, almost, a magical year. Him, Alonso, great years offensively. But, fans are going to remember what you do under pressure. It's been a thing with him hitting with runners in scoring position. It's been a thing with him hitting home runs, with, three or four men on base. But these last couple games, you haven't really seen the Juan Soto that you paid $800 million. You haven't seen him at all. He's kind of went. It sounds like he's ready to go on off-season break. Whatever. He's ready to go spend his money. Yeah, it's going to be a long off season, but we're going to have plenty of fun. So if you're not subscribed, please subscribe to the channel. If you could hit the like button, I would really appreciate it. It does help out the channel tremendously. I do appreciate everyone here. Great comments throughout the course of this very ugly game. Whether you're a Mets fan or another team, I do appreciate every one of you for the great contributions. So again, hit the like button and thank you so much for being here. Again, I'm watching the Marlins broadcast. This is like extra painful. So the Marlins right now, this was their goal. The Marlins are really playing for nothing, but their goal was to make sure the Mets did not make the playoffs. They said it in the beginning of this week. They brought it in Phillips as their pitcher right now. Tyler Phillips, that is, 2.82 ERA, 1.15 whip, has been very, very good this year. He's got 4 saves. The Mets right now just need base runners. We need base runners in the worst way, and it has gone final. The Milwaukee Brewers have defeated the Cincinnati Reds. Then the New York Mets officially have an opportunity right now to walk into the playoffs. Oh, my God. Don't swing. Everybody, all the teams I played for would be screaming, don't swing. TP, no problem. Thank you for being here. I appreciate you, especially with your expertise today. Like you were very, very wise here. I really, really do appreciate you all the time. You always got great comments. Ronnie Mauricio walks. We got a man on base. That's all we need. Get the base runner. Oh, damn. Mullins is up. Don't swing. Crouch. Get lower. We need base runners. And nobody try to be a hero, especially since you're not the tying run. He's got a nice armband. That Franklin armband looks pretty nice. CJ Mullins hits a deep fly ball. Right fielder catches it, throws it in. The New York Mets are down to their final 2 outs. I'm so interested with what Carlos Mendoza is gonna say. God, what the hell is this guy gonna say? Francisco Lindor. Season over. Season over. 4-0. Mets didn't fight. Mets did not fight. Damn. Wow. This was ugly, folks. This was ugly. Ugly. Again, I think heads are gonna roll. It's gonna start on the top. Carlos Mendoza not coming back. A lot of these players not coming back. Gonna start building the rotation around the young kids. Nolan McLean, Brandon Sproat, Jonathan. Got to get this kid's head right. The Mets have talent pitching wise, but that defense terrible. The offense inconsistent. A lot of these old players are gonna only get older, and you see a young dynamic team. The young dynamic teams the Mets have trouble with. The Nationals can't beat them. The Marlins can't beat them. I mean, the Mets right now clearly have to retool in the biggest way. Retool in the biggest way. They're going to have questions. We've already mentioned all those questions. Pete Alonso, are you going to bring him back? One of your only few good players. Are you going to bring him back? You have money allocated all over the damn place, and it's incorrectly. Manaya, waste of $75 million. Montez, waste of $34 million. Juan Soto, give him $800 million to go to sleep for the last series of the year. A lot of questions, a lot of problems. I see we have, a couple people, a lot of people in here who aren't Mets fans. That's fine. Teams that aren't going to the playoffs, Yankees, Reds, Dodgers, congrats to all those teams. All those teams put themselves in positions to do some damage. The Reds, they deserve all the credit in the world. The Mets opened the door, but the Reds decided to walk right through it. Even though the Reds tried to give the Mets an opportunity to, hey, here, take it. The Mets didn't want it. The Mets played pathetic baseball. And again, I'm going to wait to see what Carlos Mendoza says. I don't know what he can say. He's probably going to look like he's been looking in the last couple press conferences, probably going to look like he's been crying, probably going to say the same, mumbly things that he's been saying. But again, Mets fans, I know this is going to sting. I know this is going to hurt. But it's just temporary. It's really temporary. And at the end of the day, even if the Mets made the playoffs, where the hell was this team going? You got no pitching. You got no pitching, and you got no bullpen. You got no pitching. This team appears to be dysfunctional, despite. I don't give a damn what reports come out. I mean, you hear people say, "Oh, I don't hear stuff coming out of the clubhouse." That means it's fine. The clubhouse is a sacred place. You're not going to hear bad stuff come out unless reporters do digging. And mark my word, Anthony DiComo, Tim Britton, Will Salmon, what's his name? The guy, Andy Martino. Those guys are going to do digging, especially Andy Martino, because he likes to nudge Met fans. So anything negative, you will hear it. Mark my word. But again, it just really kind of is what it is. It really is what it is. Again, I want to thank everybody for being here. Elvin, you wrote the Met 0-70, 0-70 after the 8th inning. This team, folks, they had no heart. They had no heart. This team quit in the third inning. This team probably quit from inning number one. As I mentioned, we came out of the boat, striking out Lindor. Soto hit a weak pop-up. This team just, slumped their shoulders, put their heads down in the third and fourth inning, and we continued to play with bad body language, continue to play like we expected to lose this game. We don't have a leader. We don't have a manager that inspires any type of confidence. So, I apologize. What I'm going to do right now, we've streamed for a couple hours straight, almost 3 hours. I'm gonna tune out, hit the like button, but I'm gonna probably jump on later because I want to look at all of the comments from Mendoza, the players. Subscribe because we're gonna probably have a live stream later, and I want to address all of the reaction. All right. So I'm going to address the reaction. Again, thank you for everybody in here. And I don't care if you're a Met fan or not. We have a lot of great people in here. And again, all the teams, if you're a Yankee fan, congratulations. If you're a Reds fan, congratulations. Marlins fans, the team looks great. But everybody, great job. I'm going to talk to everybody soon. Stay tuned. Hit the subscribe button. Hit the like button. I thank everybody so much. It's been a fun live stream. Horrible game. What are you gonna do? The fun has just begun. We're gonna find a way to we got to find a way as an organization to get much better. But I will speak to everybody soon. Enjoy.